دكتورة سماح.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our workshop on designing communicative activities. I'm honored to be your moderator for this workshop with my dear Dr. Mohamed bin Isa. First of all, I would like to thank you all for joining us. We have a new and important workshop today presented by respected Professor Mohamed Bakkas, and I'm sure it will be insightful and very useful to all of us. Our focus today is on how we can design effective communicative activities that promote meaningful interaction in language learning. Communication is the heart of language, and as educators, it's our role to create activities that encourage real life language use, fluency, and engagement among learners. So we learn how to create activities that help students use language in real life situations instead of just learning grammar. A student needs to uh, practice speaking, listening, and uh, interacting. This makes learning more natural and fun. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce my co-moderator, Dr. Hamad bin Isa, who will be joining me in leading today's discussion. It's my pleasure to work together to make this event a success. Uh, I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to Academy of Linguistics House and linguistic research and language planning team for organizing this enriching event and providing us to this opportunity to learn and engage in meaningful discussions. And of course, heartfelt thank you all, our principals, inshallah. Now I will hand over to Dr. Hamed to share a few words to officially open workshop and welcome our special guest, Professor Mohamed Bakkas. The floor is yours, Dr. Hamed.
Thank you, Dr. Samah, for this nice words and for welcoming us. It is a pleasure to be with you and with Mr. Bakkas as well in this night. It's a pleasure to be with you in moderating this rich session. Welcome to all practitioners, researchers, and professors joining us tonight. Welcome to this special lecture in designing communicative activities. Special thanks to Mr. Dr. Marwan Sekran, Dr. Safia Kassas, Dr. Abdelkader bin Tuati, and Professor Yassin Jamal Idrisi for their contribution in making this lecture successful. Thank you again, Dr. Samah Aida, for joining us today. Greeting also to all professors and researchers, members of this international house or international academy. Greetings also to all attendees. You will get your attendance certificate after you write your names in the live chat and register in the attendance link that we will share later. Please feel free to share your questions and interact with Mr. Bakkas during the lecture. Now let's introduce our guest speaker, who is well known among Moroccan teachers of his sense of sharing materials, inspiring presentations, workshops, and ideas in general. Prof. Mohamed Bakkas was born in Zagora. He had been teaching English as a foreign language for 17 years, a year in Igram and 16 years in Charudant. Now he is a very active English language teachers supervisor at the Ministry of Education in the same region. Mr. Bakkas brings a wealth of teaching experience to our session. His deduction to enhance language education is evident through the extensive training he has pursued in Morocco, in the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Prof. Bakkas has made significant contributions to teaching English as a foreign language by presenting and leading workshops at various local, regional, and national scientific events. He has also inspired several teachers through engaging in English clubs and the Moroccan Association of Teachers of English, MATE. Tonight, Prof. Bakkas will focus on designing communicative activities that foster engagement and effective learning in the classroom. We eagerly anticipate the valuable insights and strategies he will share with us during this session. Please, Mr. Bakkas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sihmed. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Bitlisaniyat, for allowing me to present and to share some of my humble knowledge, what I learned from others. So the purpose here is sharing, and of course, when we share, we care. We are here to learn. Just we want to have a platform for sharing what we have about to say about communicative activities. على بركة الله. So, dear viewers, we are very happy to allow you. Let's say 1 minute. You share your expectations of the presentation. You have 1 minute to share your expectations of the presentation. Then later we'll check whether your guesses expectations were met or not. Sehmed, 1 minute is enough.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. 1 minute. It's
1 minute. Okay. Let me just have my timer.
yeah. It's it's a good habit to just pay attention to timing because classroom
Yeah,
management is based on the time management.
definitely. That's I use my mobile phone as a timer. It's something good for me so that I know how much time I have and how much time I still have.
Yeah, indeed. That's something that we are learning now from you.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you. Ahmed,
Yeah,
time is
it's
up.
time.
Okay,
Time is up.
time is up. All right, thank you. You can continue writing your guesses. Then we'll check them later, inshallah. All right, so my presentation of tonight's show, if you allow me to say, the menu is very rich and varied. Number one, we'll start with concept defining. We'll define communicative language teaching. We'll define compare and contrast accuracy and fluency. We'll identify the main merits of communicative activities. We'll discuss the merits and challenges of communicative activities, if you want to say. Then we'll evaluate some communicative activities. Then we'll design and share our own activities. All right. So before I go to the main dish, I'd like to start with a starter, some picture exploitation. So these pictures will lead us to the main topic, which is designing communicative activities. So please, you have, let's say, 10 seconds or 50 seconds to share your reflection on this picture. It's not about what you do, it's about what they do. All right. So in the classroom, of course, there are two main variables, or two key variables. We have the teacher and we have the learner, and of course, the classroom is for the learner. The teacher is there to facilitate learning, to provide the input and the environment for the student to develop and flourish, if you want to say. The second one, reduce teacher talking time and increase pupil activity time, or reduce TTT and increase STT. Of course, these are key pictures or images I got from British Council Facebook group and page. They once asked teachers to share the most important piece of advice they got as teachers, and these pictures, just I think 3 or 4, summarize what we have in our classrooms. All right. The third picture is give your students what they don't expect. So this means what? The first one is putting our students into consideration or the center of our teaching. Number 2, it's the idea of variety, or if you want to say creativity. Be creative, yes. Be unpredictable, which means if you want to be unpredictable, if you want to, let's say, surprise your students in a positive way, if you want to say, we need to design activities, especially communicative activities. We need to design lesson plans into on the first place, and of course take our learners into account. The next one. So I think for this one, I allow 1 minute if Sehmet doesn't disagree.
No problem. It's okay.
Yalla, you got one.
Teachers are reflecting in the chat on the picture.
Yeah. Time is up. So of course, yeah, this some of them, they talked about this. They talked about cooperative learning, collaborative learning. That's right. Group work. Yeah, we have students' involvement, students' engagement. Yes, we have the idea of experiential learning to some extent, of course. Okay, yeah, they are learning how to learn and they are involved in learning. And if you look at this classroom, the classroom is very rich in terms of the materials. And if you find the students, each one is trying to work according to what, let's say, his or her likes, if you want to say. We have there the computer, we have there the globe. So one is asking for help from the teacher. The teacher is observing The teacher is like, she is monitoring and she is leaving the ground for students to learn. She is there to guide, to help, and they are going there. They are going to let's say to learn by communicating with others. Yeah, of course, teacher is here a guide, a facilitator. That's right. The classroom not that well equipped, but there are some resources which students can make use of. All right, thank you. Yeah, sitting arrangement, of course. Yeah, the group, the way they yes. Let me go back to the picture. Yes, the sitting arrangement is very helpful here. Is very useful for the teacher and for the students. Yeah. I was expecting of you to tell me the number of students, but thanks God, no one talked about this one. Yalla, we skip it. Let's go to another minute, please. Okay, we have here two great questions to start our discussion, or to start our let's say Ramadan night. With this, we have think, pair, and share. Of course, we just think and share with the other group. So number one, please, you have to talk about students don't communicate well in my classroom because. Number two, students communicate well in my classroom because. Okay, we start with the first one. For the first one, you have 1 minute. Just the first question, please. Students don't communicate well in my classroom. Why do students not communicate well in my classroom? You have 1 minute, please. And of course, you can share your answers in the comments. All right, time is up. So yeah, of course, they shared a lot. They shared a lot of great ideas. They're not motivated. Problem of carelessness. Problem of the topic. They are shy. They are scared of making mistakes. Yeah. So not enough opportunities to communicate. Yeah. The topic. All right. Thank you. Now let's go to the second question. You have another minute. So students communicate well in my classroom because.
Professor Bakkas, you can activate the mic before you talk. activate the market.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to. I'm activated now. All right, so a lot of them shared nice ideas and great ideas. But we'll see, or we'll give them a try to these ideas. So another question, please. It's what does communicative competence mean to you?
You have a minute also for this to comment on this as well. Please don't share your emails. We will share the registration or the attendance link later, inshallah.
Time is up. Okay, let's share the definition we have by Richard and Schmidt. So communicative competence means knowing the keywords or the key questions are there highlighted in red. They are in capital and they are in red. So when and how to say what to whom. So it means being able to know when it's time, how to say something, what to say, and to whom. So of course we are taking into account here the speaker and the hearer, and the time of talking, if you want to say the conditions, and we talk about the topic of they are talking about. In the other definition there, the first one was by Delheims in 1971. The second one is by Richard and Schmidt, 2002, page 90. It's knowledge of not only if something is formally possible in a language, but also the knowledge of whether it's feasible, appropriate, or done in a particular speech community. So here we add the idea of the idea of appropriateness. It's not just correctness, but we have also appropriateness. When we talk about communicative competence, we talk about the 4 areas. We have the first element is the linguistic, the second is the sociolinguistic, the third is the strategic, and the other one is discourse. So it's the ability to understand and use language effectively to communicate in a wide variety of contexts and for a variety of purposes. Yeah, we're talking about here the ability to communicate, so to understand, which means to receive and to produce the language, a lot of contexts, a variety of contexts, and of course for a variety or for different purposes. We move on now. Okay, you have, let's say, 30 seconds, or if Sihmed allows me, we can have 1 minute if Sihmed allows me.
1 minute, what? 1 minute.
1 minute, please. What does communicative language teaching mean to you? Or what do you understand by communicative language teaching? All right, time is up. So communicative language teaching is an approach to foreign or second language teaching, which emphasizes that the goal of language learning is communicative competence, what we defined before, and which seeks to make meaningful communication and language a focus of all classroom activities. So the focus here, or the emphasis, as they said, is what? Achieving communicative competence. And when we talked about communicative competence, the 4 elements. We talked about the linguistic, the social and the strategic, and the other ones. Then the purpose is what? To make meaning. Okay, we talked about. Just let me bring you back to it. This is what you have. What we had before, we talked about linguistic, strategic, sociolinguistic, and discourse. This is what we should take into account, or what's taken into account in communicative language teaching. So the purpose is to make meaningful communication and language. So let's underline the word or the adjective meaningful. It must have a meaning and language focus of all classroom activities. So which means classroom activities must focus on meaningful communication and language use, not language correctness. Again, communicative language teaching can be understood as a set of principles about the goals of language teaching. So the goals of language teaching, how learners learn a language, the kinds of classroom activities that best facilitate learning, and the roles of both the teacher and the learner in the classroom. Now, when they talk about this, they are talking about the 3 main principles or concepts of communicative language teaching. If you observe, the focus is on communication. Number 2, it's student-centered, not teacher-centered. So we give the floor to the student to use the language and to practice the language. So my role as a teacher is just a facilitator. The focus is on the message. If you understood the message, which means that's great. Now, it has been stated in the literature that there is always a dichotomy when we talk about classroom activities. We have accuracy and we have fluency. You are kindly requested to take 1 minute to define accuracy, please. What does accuracy mean to you, or what do you understand by accuracy? Again, 1 minute, Ahmed. Okay, time is up. Okay, you are kindly requested to compare your definitions with this one. So accuracy can be defined as the ability to produce grammatically correct sentences, but may not include the ability to speak or write fluently. So here we have, if you want to say within the definition, there's a comparison. So we have the ability to what? Produce grammatically correct sentences. So the focus is on correctness, especially the sentences which are grammatically correct. And they say, but may not include, which means if we have more accuracy activities in our classrooms, this means that our students may not have a chance to communicate outside the classroom. They will just focus on what's correct or not correct. Okay, because there are two sides of a coin. Whenever there is accuracy, there is fluency. You have 1 minute to explain accuracy, fluency, please. So I'll have the timer.
Mr. Bakkas, I saw in a comment that someone shared that accuracy is related to teaching vocabulary as well. Is that possible?
Maybe, but when we talk about accuracy, we usually talk about grammar, and we talk about the correct use of grammar. Yeah. All right. Time is up. So if you allow me, so in second and foreign language teaching, fluency describes a level of proficiency in communication, which includes, so they talk about, here they talk about 4 levels. So number 1, the ability to produce written and or spoken language with ease. Number 2, the ability to speak with a good but not necessarily perfect command of intonation, vocab, and grammar. C, the ability to communicate ideas effectively. D, the ability to produce continuous speech without causing comprehension difficulties or breakdowns of communication. So if you look at the first one, the ability to produce, the ability to speak, the ability to communicate, the ability to produce. So here we are talking about more on production, and we produce something which is meaningful, can be understood by others, and then if we listen to others, we can understand, or we can decode their message, if you want to say. Now we go to the seven C's of communication. Whenever we talk about communication, there must be talk about the 7 C's, which are very important for any communication. Yes, of course, when we talk about fluency, is the ability to speak. It's not just speak; it's also the ability to write. It's not just speak. That's why they said here, the ability to produce a written and or spoken. It's both in written and spoken. Of course, it's the ability to speak with a good but not perfect command of, okay, there might be a problem of intonation of vocab and grammar because it's not your language. We are talking about here L2. You communicate ideas effectively, which means when you communicate ideas, which means the other one or the others understand you. So if they understand you, of course, there is effective communication. Of course, we talked about continuous speech, which means when you are able to speak without stopping, without pause, which means you are able to you master the language, if you want to say, to express what you want to say. Okay, for any communication, it has been stated in literature there are seven elements. Some people, they say, sometimes they state 5 and so on, but let's talk about 7 here. So the message must be clear, must be correct, complete, concise, concrete, considerate, and we'll talk about courtesy, if you want to say. Now here, this image, I don't know if it's clear to you, will explain those 7 C's of effective communication. Otherwise, if you can't see the image, just you can Google it, please. There is another one. Again, it's the same. those are checklists if you want to save communication, or the main elements of if you want to talk about communication. Since we were talking about accuracy and fluency, so we have here some characteristics of activities that focus on fluency and those that focus on accuracy. So please, you are kindly requested. Let's say there are. So, are we allowed, see Ahmed, to have 4 minutes?
Okay, okay, okay.
Can we have 4 minutes, Ahmed?
Yes.
Let's say you have 5 minutes, please. So you have there the 12 characteristics. You are kindly requested to classify them into 2 groups. Which ones are for which ones are for accuracy activities, and which ones describe fluency activities? Okay, you got 5 minutes. There are 12 characteristics, which means we have there 6, which means 6 for accuracy and 6 for fluency. All right, let me reduce time, so which means, let's say time is up, although we still have 1 minute. So we go to number 1. So number 1 is for what? So number one is fluency. Number 2, that's accuracy. Number 3, fluency. Number 4, accuracy. Number 5, that's accuracy. Number 6, that's fluency. Number 7, that's accuracy. Number 8, that's accuracy. Number 9, that's fluency. Number 10, number 10 that's fluency. Number 11, of course, that's fluency, and the last one is accuracy. You can have them here. All right. The next task. So since we talked about fluency, now we will focus only on communicative activities, and especially their main features, if you want to say. So number 1 is they seek to develop students' communicative competence. Number 2, they create the need for communication. Number 3, they make use of content that connects students' lives and interests, which means something which is relevant to students or something which is interesting to students will lead them to communicate. Personalization is very important. When students personalize or are encouraged to personalize or take things personally in activity, they communicate well, and the focus is on authentic texts or materials. Now, if you want, this is something suggested by British Council. This is I copied from British Council. This is checking the degree of communicative score of activities. We want to see to what extent an activity is communicative or very communicative. So the first one you have, is it two-way? Is it two-way, which means more than one, which means not one way, which means we have pair work and so on. Number 2, is it real life? Does it have something to do with real life situations? The third one, is it meaning content focused or just language? Is it personalized and is context, which means is it relevant? So is it a real activity or just an artificial one? And of course, is the idea of emotional. Is the learner involved or not emotionally? Now we go to something very important for us as teachers. Now, what's our role? What's the role of the teacher? Okay, when designing activities, what's my role as a teacher? So when we talk about designing communicative activities, we have 3, if you want to say 3 stages. So the first one is before the activity, during the activity, and after the activity. So please, 5 minutes. I see Ahmed.
Yeah,
No problem,
yeah.
Ahmed.
No problem.
Yalla, you got 5 minutes, please, to complete the chart. What should a teacher do before a communicative activity? What should he or she do during the activity and after the activity? Of course, you are kindly requested to share your ideas there. I'm very happy see Raqraq is here. Dr. Raqraq is with us here. Hi from Tarodant to Qnitra, Raqraq. Time is up, Ahmed. So please, you are kindly requested to compare what you suggested and this. So number one, selecting or designing the activity, ensuring the activity aligns with students' professional level. So taking into account the level of our students, their interests and the learning objectives. Number two, setting objectives, clarifying the linguistic, communicative, and intercultural goals. Number three, providing input and scaffolding, introducing key vocab, structures, and functions needed for successful communication. Explaining instructions clearly, giving clear step-by-step guidance to minimize confusion. Modeling the task, demonstrating or role-playing the activity to set expectations. Then organizing groups or pairs, arranging students into pairs or groups strategically to maximize interaction. During, of course, some of you talked about this, talked about the role of the teacher as a monitor or a facilitator. So encouraging participation, ensuring all students are engaged and contributing. Number two, monitoring and providing support. So when you turn around and you observe some students are not working, you try to help them. Let's say you try to scaffold them, you try to make the activity lighter for them so that they are involved. Okay, taking notes on or of errors and languages, noting common errors and successful languages for later feedback, of course. Then managing classroom dynamics, ensuring students stay on task and maintain a supportive communicative environment. So turning around, monitoring, and so on, you know what happens inside. You know what happens inside your classroom. You know who is engaged and who is not engaged, who is taking part and who is not taking part. So then the best way is then you try to involve everyone, as we said last time, by assigning tasks for each one or for each member of the group. Okay. After the activity, the role of the teacher is there a provider, a feedback provider, or a language analyst. So conducting feedback and reflection, discussing students' performance, addressing difficulties, and highlighting strengths. Sometimes it's better to provide students with a checklist. This checklist will help them to checklist with rubrics to help them improve the way they present or the way they share things. Providing corrective feedback, offering focused feedback on errors noted during the task. So here, if this has something to do with error correction or the time of error correction, should I correct immediately? So is it immediate correction or delayed correction? Here, of course, when the activity is fluency oriented, we have delayed corrections so as to allow students to communicate, and later we can deal with the problems they have. Then reinforcing target language, reviewing key vocab, grammar or pronunciation points that emerged. Encouraging metacognition, asking students to reflect on their communication strategies and challenges, maybe inviting students to self-assess, so to assess themselves and to talk about how they manage to succeed or how they manage to avoid problems in the activity. The last one is extending the learning, suggesting follow activities, real-world applications, or related tasks to deepen understanding. Now, samples of communicative activities. We have class survey, conversation grid, line dialogue, games, information gap, role play, story writing, jigsaw, opinion sharing activities, information gathering activities, information transfer activities, and reason. These are the ones that are suggested in the literature, but most of the time they focus on, let's say, 5. They talk about class surveys, they talk about games, they talk about role play, information gap, and jigsaw. These are the ones they say that they're mostly used in our in the classroom. Now, this is an example. This is an example of an activity. So we have here, do you like? So can you describe this activity first? And is it communicative one or no? Okay, what makes it, yes, Ustad Hafid Moin, he says, yes, it is. What makes it communicative? So here we have what? We have, if you want to say, we have cue cards. We have, no, it's not find someone who. Simezi, it's not that. So here it's an information gap. So one student has some information and the other student has other information. So the students, if they want to, let's say, to finish or complete their chart, they must ask others. They must ask others questions. So when they ask the question, they ask the question for a real purpose because they don't know. What happens in our classrooms? I don't know if you remember one of the characteristics we said the language or the production is not feasible. No, it's not. Hassan, it's not a jigsaw activity. No, it's not a jigsaw. This one is not. This is an information gap activity. One student has some information, the other one has some information. Then we will have pair work. Each one is going to ask the other one to complete his or her chart, which means to complete the missing information. So there is an information gap. Yes, of course, there's information gap. Number two is pair work, and questions are real questions. This is very different from when you practice asking questions like name. So I know Ahmed, his name is Ahmed, and then I say, Ahmed, what's your name? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But here when you say, does X like, for example, pizza? Does X like fish? Yes, he does, and so on. So we have here information gap. Now, see, Hassan, jigsaw, we can use it in the reading, we can use it in discussion, we have it in a lot of things. But this is not a jigsaw. A jigsaw is when you divide the group. For example, you have a class of 30 students. Then you will have 5 groups of 6. Then each one is responsible for one element. Then you ask other what they call the expert group, which means the students having the same thing to discuss for some time. Then they go back to their groups and they share. Then after that, there is assessment of both the individual and the group. All right, so this is your task now. Please, you have this information. You have this chart. So we have Amal, Ali, Hind, and Nora, your friend. Here we want to practice past simple of to be. Let's say was, were, wasn't, weren't. How can you make of this to design a communicative activity? So if Ahmed allows me, so that's another 5 minutes, of course. Okay, and I like to thank you for, thank you for joining this webinar and to participate in making it a success. I'd like also to thank my colleagues in G23, the 2015-2017 supervisors, and of course all the supervisors in our beloved country. So you got 5 minutes, please. Design an activity. You have this information. Design a communicative activity. Simimon Mazi, can you develop what you said? See, Abu Mariam, معناوي where was Amal? You have the answer there. You have at home and at the cinema, in the garden. So what's the purpose of asking where? If everybody knows the answer. All right, so there are some great ideas. Yeah. Yes, Salah was Amal. Okay. Now, when you say was, do the students know the answer? They don't. So here you can make it. Yes, you can make it. Let's say an information gap activity, which means you can have this this chart. You can have it into two, divided into two. So one student has some answers and the other one doesn't. So then they ask the questions. Or you can have it as students. Okay, let me move to this one. So as a teacher, I have this like this, helping them as a model. Paul, was Amal at home last weekend? Yes, she was. Were Hind and Nora at the stadium last Friday afternoon? No, they weren't. So this is, let's say, an example for students to follow afterwards. Now here, I can have it as a teacher. Me, I know the answers, and students don't know the answers. So students will ask me questions. For example, okay, let me go back to the previous one. Was Amal at home? Was Amal at home yesterday or last weekend? As a teacher, I write just X or V. X or V. So then we'll have 4 questions with Amal, 4 questions with Ali, and 4 questions with Hind and Nora, which means how many are those? Those are 12 questions. Then what? Me as a teacher, I write just XV, XV, XV. Then I invite students to what? To produce correct sentences in affirmative and negative. So Amal was at home, Amal wasn't at the cinema, or Amal was at home and at the cinema, or Amal was at home but she wasn't at the cinema. And then I make it pair work, which means I invite students to work in pairs. So here, what? We have it pair, and we don't expect the answers. So were you at home last night? So then after my friend answers, we change the roles. Then he or she asks me. Then once they finish, they report to the class. So let's say, for example, I say about Ahmed. Si Ahmed, okay, let's say Ahmed wasn't at home last night. Si Ahmed was at the cinema. Si Ahmed wasn't in the garden last weekend. He was at the stadium last weekend. So here we don't expect the answers because we don't know the answers of Si Ahmed. The same Si Ahmed will report my answers. So in this way, we will have a lot of, so the students are participating, the students are communicating, and we don't know the answers, which means they are not expected. All right, let's go. I don't know if this picture is clear for you on Facebook. I'll check. I'll check. So there's a picture there. You have a picture. So for me on Facebook,
Not yet.
not
Now
yet.
it's
Yeah.
now it's on Facebook now.
So please, now because I'm so having a look at my Facebook. So please, you have 5 minutes to design a communicative activity using this picture. Si Ahmed, no problem if we allow 5 minutes?
No problem. No problem.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes, please. I said you have this picture. Use this picture to design a communicative activity for your students. Okay, teacher Sarah, you said a role play. Yes. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, can you explain? Can you explain? Can you make your instructions clearer to your students so that they would produce a role play with the target vocabulary or target expressions you want to use? See, Abdel, bro, it's not describing a picture. This picture, what do you have there? It's at a restaurant. We have a customer and a waitress. So design an activity for your students. Let's say a role play. One is going to play the waiter / waitress, and the other one is going to play the customer. What are they going to say? What are they going to use? حضار وإحضار. Yes. How? How can it be for a story writing? Can you explain, please? Okay, time is up. Yeah, so there are a lot of great descriptions, but are these descriptions, will they be helpful to our learners to write the conversation? So here, you said it's a role play. Great. So when you talk about a role play, which means we have what? We have two. So we are going to write a dialogue between a waiter / waitress and the customer. Then you design the roles. You are waiters. You are customers. Then you what? You elicit. You try to elicit the target vocabulary or target expressions. So what does, yes, that's a dialogue role play. So what does the student need? So he or she needs what? What would you like to order? What would you like to eat? Anything else? What would you like to drink? All right. Then for the other one, I'd order, and this. Yeah, CNFLS, yes, you can have, but here it's not scrambled, because if you have it scrambled, it's no longer communicative. It's just, that's recognition. They recognize, and they then one step, yes. But then if you have this, decide the roles. So let's say this role, these students, you are waiters. These students, you are customers. Then you provide them with what they need to use, if they want to produce a dialogue. Yeah, of course, that's for Common Core. Yeah, that's Common Core. Yes, can I take order? You can review what they learned. Then you have it on the whiteboard, on the blackboard for students as a way of scaffolding them. Then you invite them to rehearse. Afterwards, they perform in front of their peers, or just you can have both open pair or closed pair work if you want to say. Okay, this one. I see it's not yet. Yeah, of course, Silvan, sorry, cue cards will have. That's why I said, how are you going to design it? Having cue cards will help them, of course. The second, the other picture is, I'm still waiting for it to show on Facebook, but for me it's okay. Let me refresh my Facebook. Ahmed, is it on Facebook? Not yet. It's now. No, it's on Facebook. Yeah, definitely. Now, if you look at this picture, what do you have in this picture? Yeah, that's a market. So, can we talk about unit of shopping? So again, a role play. One is let's say here a greengrocer, and the other one is the customer or the client. Yeah, it's of course it's shopping. So we'll have two. One student is the customer or the client, and the other one is the greengrocer. Yeah, and of course we'll talk about what have you got. Yes, how much is, that's right. What do you need? Okay, anything. How much or how many kilograms of apples, potatoes, or anything. This is another one of a role play for, yeah, a young woman doing the shopping. Yeah, but you can say a young woman just representing a customer or client. So you can make one of your students as a customer, the other one is the shopkeeper, if you want to say the greengrocer. Okay, let's go to the other one. Yes, that's when you talk about production, there must be a lot of things before you provide students to produce. That's why I said you review the necessary or the target vocabulary or target functions if you want to here. So asking about the price. So here, asking about the price, asking about the quantity and the numbers and so on. Now here, another one is that the doctor. So that's a unit of, if you want to say unit of health, visiting the doctor. So here, what do we need? There's a conversation between a doctor and the patient. what's the matter with you, what's wrong. Then you review the types of illnesses, backache, stomach ache, earache, headache, and so on, or a pain in my. Okay, then talk about prescription. Then there is a conversation between the doctor. Yeah. Yeah, of course, it's unit of health and welfare. Yeah. So it's of course we have here the Moroccan. We take into account the Moroccan context. Sehmed, can we go to the other document so as to share the other samples of Yes, Omar, yes, that's right. You have student access the waitress and the other one's a customer, then they practice. Let's say provide them with the necessary expressions. Because when I say scrambled, so these are the expressions needed to be used by a customer, and these are needed to be used, for example, by a greengrocer, waiter, or waitress. Then they choose which ones to use. Still waiting on Facebook. That we have their types of activities. Yeah, so the first one is, if you observe there, the first one is you have there A and B, student A and C. So here I'll share samples. I'll share samples of communicative activities. Of course, I can share them online on Facebook or any platform you want, just to have access. So we have here student A and student B. So if you observe, student A has some information which student B doesn't have. Okay, yeah, I know the picture is not. Try to okay, say. I don't know. Yeah. The problem. Okay, I'll try to describe. I'll try to describe the picture. Okay, just you allow me 1 second. So I go to. So what's very important there is you have two students there, and then we ask. Okay, let me use this one. So you have student A and student B. So we have five people. Then you have name, age, place, or where one lives, job, phone number, and the children. So each one is going to ask let's say student A is going to ask the student B questions about name, what's his or her name, how old is he or she, where does he or she live, okay, what does he do, or what does she do, what's his or her phone number, and the other one, it's is he single or married, has he got any children or no. So this is an example of an information gap activity. Sorry. If you go to the second, I hope it's clear now to you. The second one is talking about complaining at a shop. And if you observe here, I hope it's clear to you. We have cue cards. You have student A and student B. If you allow me to read the first one, you are in an ice cream parlor. You have forgotten your wallet at home, but you have some money in your pockets, yet it's not enough, and you are in a hurry. You ask for a discount. Student B, you work in an ice cream parlor, and customers often irritate you by asking discounts. Your boss is very strict and would fire you if you gave any. So always ask for the full price. The second one, again, you are at a food shop, you don't accept complaints unless the customer shows you the receipt. You would lose your job, but you need the money. You are a housewife, you are cooking for an important event, and you find out that the milk you have just bought is sour. You got back to the shop to complain, but you didn't keep the receipt. So here we have here cue cards to help or guide our students in their the first one, Mulim Hamza. The first one, the first one. Let me go back to it. Yes, the first one is information gap. No, information gap activity. One student has some information and the other one has other information, so they need to communicate to complete the chart or to complete the activity. The second one, that's a role play, and you have here cue cards. Each student will get a cue card. If you observe that you have student A, student B, student A, student B, so each one is going to write his or her own part of the dialogue. Then there will be a rehearsal. Then there will be performance in front. And of course, to make it easy, for students, you provide them with what they need. So what do you have there? Complaining at a shop. So you have their polite ways of complaining, then reacting to a complaint, then aggressive or rude ways of complaining. So here you provide your students. So here we have the cue cards. Here we have the expressions they need. They need to complete the task. Of course, you have there how to complain, how to react to complaints, and you have a list of expressions. So it's it's like scaffolding. You are making it easy for students. So if a student doesn't need that, he wouldn't go back to it. If he or she needs it, it's there to help him or her. The other one, this is reasoning. It's shipwrecked. I remember when I was a student, we had it many times in French. Our teacher of French used to have this. So shipwrecked. So we have here. There are, I think, 8. Yeah, there are 8 people. So one should be thrown out of the ship. So there is an accident of ship, and you have there 8 people. No, one is the graduate, number 2 the post sportsman, the writer, the housewife, the carpenter, the nurse, the retired colonel, and the factory owner. And then you have the instructions. Okay, let me. So you have those 8 people. Then you have the instructions. It's like reasoning. You choose this one. So you were on a cruise across the Atlantic, but there was an accident in the machine room, and the cruise ship sank. Some people were able to reach. So there are too many people on boat, and at least one must leave the boat, which means one of them must be thrown into water or into the sea, if you want to say. So you have here. We want to help you. So my own decision, which means for me, who should live and who should die. Then we have also the group discussion. The group discussion to see, like if you say voting to some extent, voting in terms of using the language. So if you say the graduate, you should convince others to be with you that they should throw the graduate, or you choose one of them. Then, as a way of scaffolding, you have there at the bottom, live or die, give you reasons. The graduate should leave, or should die because. That's an example of reasoning. Then another one, it's a role played again. It's complaining in a mobile shop, like we talked about it before. We have there student A, student B, or talk about cue cards. Always provide students with their need. Make your instructions clearer, and modeling is very important. All right, the last one. I think I'm not sure if it's the last one. Let me check. Okay, let's Yeah, that's a game. Again, one of the games is find someone who, and you make it more complicated. So here you want your students to practice any for example tense or something like that. So you let's say you help them. So find someone who has a relative living in New York. If you find someone, you got 5 points. Someone who likes to read mystery novels, 3 points. Someone who has a dog and a cat, 3 points. Someone who is wearing something blue, 1 point. So then after they finish, you calculate the points, and then you have the winner. Another one is also another game is find someone who, but here plays, it's about musical instruments. It depends on what you do with that board game. Yeah, sometimes they say move 3 if you have 2 brothers, or if you have 3 sisters. How do we know that you have 2 brothers or 3? So, yeah. See, Ahmed, can I go back to my PowerPoint presentation, please?
Okay. Here it is.
Thank you so much, Ahmed, for helping me. After showing you examples of games and so on, now we come back to the merits. Okay, what are the merits of communicative activities, and what are the challenges? In other words, what are the advantages and disadvantages? So let me, Ahmed, we reduce time, not 5 minutes, just 3 minutes, Ahmed.
Okay.
Yalla, you got 3 minutes, please, to share the merits and challenges of communicative activities. All right, time is up. Okay, let's share some of the ideas I have and those with those you have. Let's see. So we'll talk about the merits. So communicative activity, they enhance fluency, they encourage spontaneous language use, they help learners think English and respond naturally. Number 2, authentic language use stimulates real-world interactions, making learning more meaningful. Number 3, it increases engagement and motivation. Activities like role plays, discussion, problem-solving tasks make learning enjoyable. Students, they like them a lot. They develop social and interaction skills, helps learners practice turn-taking, negotiation, and clarification strategies. They promote learner autonomy, encourages students to take responsibility for their communication and think independently. They integrate language skills. We have there speaking, listening, reading, and writing. They can be blended into a simple activity. Then number 7, they facilitate personalization. Learners bring their own experiences and opinions into the activity, making it more relevant. The challenges, number 1, uneven participation. Some students dominate while others may remain passive. Number 2, accuracy versus fluency conflict. Focus on fluency may lead to fossilization of errors if not monitored carefully. When I was preparing for this, I watched a lot of videos, especially with the writer of the book of 50 communicative activities. I think it's Richards, and I think Richards. Okay, let me check. Yeah, and he was talking about this in a video. Okay, so no, that's Jeremy Harmer who wrote this, the 50 communicative activities, and Richards is the other book. Now, yesterday I watched a video. Scott Thornberry invited Jeremy Harmer to talk about his book of 50 communicative activities, and he said one of the surprising things he had is that all those students were happy with communicative activities. They asked him, "We want grammar, we want vocabulary," which means, I don't know. He said he was very surprised. They were involved in communication and communicative activities, but still students, they say, we want to have grammar, we want to have lessons of grammar, we want to have this. This is, he said this is something was very surprising to him. I think there is a great interview between Jeremy Harmer and Thornberry on YouTube. Yeah, it's Harmer. Yeah, it's Harmer still now. It's Harmer and I think Scott Thornberry. They were discussing the idea of communicative activities, and he said he was surprised. He was one of those who let's say who advocate communicative activities, but in his teaching he was very surprised that students ask him about, they want grammar, they want vocabulary, they want excessive vocabulary and grammar. Number 3, yes, this is something stated by some of our colleagues here. It's classroom management issue. Noise and off-topic conversations can become problematic. Yes, sometimes you get complaints from other neighboring teachers, other teachers who are not teachers of English, and then they accuse you that you don't manage your class well, that you don't control your class because there's a lot of noise and so on. Normally you are trying to make your classroom lively for your students' activities and so on, but the others don't have the same ideas. Low proficiency learners' anxiety. Some students may feel hesitant or embarrassed to participate. He said, yes, he was a communicative teacher, strong, but then he was very surprised by the students asking for grammar and so on. Time consuming, of course, if you want to design communicative activities and deliver them in the classroom, it takes a lot of time before you go to the classroom and inside the classroom. Planning, setting up, conducting communicative activities often take more time than controlled practice. Assessment difficulties, evaluated communicative can be subjective and complex. Yes, sometimes it's very difficult. So when you have two students in a pair work, and most of the time there are sometimes fights in our classroom. Let's not say fights, but let's say there are students who like just the questions. They take the part of questions because the questions are fixed. But mixing the roles or turn taking is good here. Cultural and personality differences. Some learners may be uncomfortable with open-ended tasks or speaking in groups. Yeah, there are some students in our classrooms. They are always silent. They are quiet, but they surprise us with their great marks in the exams. Now, if you want to, let's say, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because of a comment of Mr. Mohammed. I'm sorry. Sometimes lazy students will prefer the teacher to win the most of the work. Maybe Harmer had some of those. Yeah, maybe. All right. Let's have a balance between the merits and the challenges. To maximize the benefits and minimize the challenges, communicative should be well structured, scaffolded, and adapted to the learner's needs. And of course, we should take them into account, which means one of the suggestions of Harmer is what make these activities a routine, which means their frequency should be high in our classrooms. Otherwise, students will be surprised when they have a communicative activity. We come nearly to the end, so we go to the questionnaire. I prepared the questionnaire. Did you get, Sihmad, my questionnaire?
Yeah, the forum, you mean? But
Yeah.
it is not. I couldn't get into the link. You need to provide access to everyone who has the link.
Which means I need to go to the sit-in. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Okay, why not? So while waiting for sharing the link, you have there, please. We talked last time about reflective teaching and so on. One of the exit tickets is one of them is exit ticket. So please, can you type there one question you still have, 2 things you found interesting, 3 things you learned today, and 4 things you need to reconsider or reflect on, while I'm fixing the problem of this. Okay, so let's say sharing. Can you check, Sahmed, now?
Okay, just 1 minute. Okay, I will try again. And now,
نعم Sahmed, yes or no?
not yet. I am just getting a message. I will try it. It's taken long time. Oh. It asks for a phone number or an email.
Normally I said without asking for an email.
Okay. First name. So the link is not. Maybe if you can just shorten the link and then send it again.
Okay. واخا.
Just we want to share with you a link where you may reflect on this lecture or workshop. It was prepared by Professor Mohamed Bakkas to get your feedback about the workshop.
So Ahmed, okay, let me send you the shortened one. Can you see now?
I find not yet.
Look in the private chat.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I got it. I will try it again. You see this. Now it's working. Now it's working. So I share it with you. So with the exit ticket.
So please, there is a link there. There is a link. You are kindly requested to fill in the link.
There are two links because the administration shared the attendance link just a few minutes.
So, yeah, the one I shared, the one I shared me.
I shared also this exit ticket also.
Yeah. So please take some time to fill in the form so that we get your questions.
Okay. For
No answers so far.
They are writing in the chat that the link is not working. I will share it again.
Okay, let me check. Can you share it again?
Yeah, okay. I'm checking again. It works for me. It works.
Yeah, that's why I'm.
So both links are
I got some answers. Yeah, I got some answers.
yeah. Yeah, both links are working now. You can just get in and answer the questions that Professor Bakkas shared with us. Retry, Mr. Rida Al-Ghaddour, retry, they are working. There are no problems in the links.
Yeah, because I got some answers. Okay, one of the questions is how to manage communicative activities in large classes. How to use communicative approach in large classes? Yes, the idea of large classes.
While you are getting this teacher's reflections,
I can't hear you.
let me just okay, just comment on the whole lecture, then we will
go.
get back to the.
لا, the floor is yours, Ahmed. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bakkas. So, hi everyone again. The session on designing communicative activities presented by Professor Mohamed Bakkas highlights highlighted crucial elements of effective language teaching. He emphasizes that communicative activities are not just tools, but essential methodologies that foster interaction and engagement among learners. This approach is vital for creating a dynamic classroom environment that enhances students' language proficiency and confidence. The insights shared during the lecture highlighted the importance of aligning activities with learners' needs, contextualizing language use in real-world scenarios by focusing on communicative competencies or competence. Teachers can effectively address the challenges faced by students in practical English language application. Moreover, the session provided practical strategies for developing and implementing communicative activities. The emphasis on collaboration, peer interactions, and students' motivation as a reminder that language learning is inherently social and fosters a communicative atmosphere that can significantly improve students' outcomes. Prof. Bakkas' recommendations for integrating these activities into our daily teaching practices highlights the crucial role of ongoing innovation in the language teaching and learning process. His belief in effective communication is the cornerstone of language learning, is reminding us that the path to mastery lies in activities, in active participation and practice. The session also reinforces the idea that designing communicative activities is fundamental to shaping effective language instruction. By embracing these strategies, teachers can create a more engaging and motivating environment that benefits both teaching and learning, the learning and teaching of the English language in the Moroccan context. Okay, Mr. Bakkas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ahmed. So I got some, let's say, eight people responded to using the Google form. So the first question, I think the first and second question, they were talking about the idea of large classes. Sometimes as teachers, large classes is a problem. For example, having a class of 40 or so, that's something. It makes it difficult for learners, and it makes it difficult for the students, for the teacher too. Again, as we said again, making it a routine, making these activities as a routine, using information gap activities. You can divide your classroom into let's say rows. For example, if you have you can have, let's say, part A, part B, part C, part D. Now, so each row will have one element, and then they part A will ask people with part B, B will ask part C, C will ask D, and so on. They need a lot of work from you as a teacher before you go to the classroom. But the more, let's say, I remember that it once said that 1 minute spent designing or planning, you have 1 hour gained. This means that the more you prepare and the more familiar your students are with these activities, you will not have any problems. Let's opt for pair work again. Pair work, so all the students are working at the same time, and then you monitoring. So all the students are working, all the students are communicating. Then you use ICT, use technology. We have now Wheel of Names, an app which is called Wheel of Names. You have the names of your students. Then you turn the wheel. Then you get 1 or 2 or 3 pairs to share their dialogues or their conversations, if you want to say. Okay. Again, yeah. So there are. It's nearly the same question: pair work or group work. Pair work is better because pair work will involve all the students will be involved. So, which means if you have 40 students, all the 40 are working in pairs. When you have group work, you need to monitor. You need to turn around to see who is taking his role seriously and who is not, who is being involved or not. So there are activities which let's say allow group work, and those which allow pair work. It's up to you to choose. Of course, when you have group work, you have more noise. Of course, you have more more problems with students' involvement, which one is involved, which one is not involved. How many communicative activities should be incorporated into integrated skills lesson plan? Okay, it depends. It depends in the amount of time. It depends on the target. What's the focus here? One activity or two are great if you have them into, let's say 2 or 3 are great too. You start with controlled. You have teacher, like the activity we did with Simple Pass. So students asking the teacher, then they pair work. You can have it as information gap. Some students have some information that don't have. Then you make it pair work. Okay, how to ensure using English during communicative activities? So use English they know. You use the language. That's why you need to review. So if it's complaining, I review the expressions of making a complaint and reacting to complaints. If it's a dialogue in a restaurant, review the language and the vocabulary they need. Once it's reviewed, once they are familiar with that, you will not have any problems. How to get my more students to talk? Design activities which allow your students to talk. Give them the floor. Give the floor to students to talk. Take into account that the classroom is not yours only as a teacher, which means give the floor to your students to talk and speak. Again, preparation is very important. Can we teach? Yeah, of course. There are activities for listening, for reading. One jigsaw is most of the time is used it can be used in reading. Let's say you divide the class into, you have, for example, text with 4 paragraphs. One group is for the introduction, first paragraph, second, and then the 4th paragraph. Yeah, all the skills can be done. Now, when students were asking the question of was Amal in the God? This is what they are speaking, and there's someone who is listening. Then later they write, they read. So all the skills are integrated. How can we combine accuracy and fluency in one activity but still focusing on fluency? You can start with accuracy so that to allow your students to get exact or the correct language. Then you allow them the freedom to use that language in situations. Yeah, you can design activities for accuracy. Once you are sure or you know that your students got it, then you allow them to work. Sorry, allow them to work in pairs, allow them to work in groups, so that they have more fluency-oriented activities. Can you divide the whole session for communicative activities? You can and you can't. What's your purpose? Now, if you talk about the idea of shipwrecked, for example, because you have that 8, you can have the idea of TPS, think, pair, share, which means each one will think for himself or herself, then he or she shares with his or her partner, then they share with the group, then they agree all of them and on one decision. It may take one session too. Yeah. Some students don't want to play communicative activities. How can we let's personalize the activities, help them. Some students don't participate or don't want or are hesitant to participate. They need encouragement. Give them the floor. Give them the floor to make mistakes. Give them the floor to act. So those students, give them the floor to stand up and talk, and then you applaud them to encourage them. As we all know, beginner don't have enough bug to use the language on their own. How can we integrate? Yeah, why not? So asking about the name. If you have an information gap activity, let's take asking about name, age. Asking about name and age. Then you have let's say you have an information gap activity. You have two charts. Okay, I have some information. My friend has some information. Then I say, what's his name? What's her name? How old is he? How old is she? So the students are using these questions, but for something which is real and for something they don't know the answer. That's what makes it communicative, because this is the idea of information gap activity and the idea of asking questions for real purposes. Yeah. There are a lot. The last question is how to design digital communicative. Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of platforms and a lot of apps to just you Google. You have there. You can have these. While preparing for this, I tried to. I looked for. I used AI. I used artificial intelligence. By the way, when I designed this, just something to share with you. When I designed this workshop representation, I converted it into a PDF. Then I uploaded it on many AI apps and tried to ask them to help me improve my presentation, how to make it more engaging and more fruitful. And some of their suggestions I used them, like this one of Google Form. They said use Google Forms so that teachers are using ICT, and then you get feedback, you get all the questions in front of you, and you don't have problems with that. So there are a lot of apps that allow you to have this. I think one of them is Mentimeter. I think the other one we have Kahoot. There are other activities where other apps to make ICT and to make communicative activities using ICT. These are all the questions, Ahmed, I have. The other I found interesting, so that's great. نعم Ahmed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bakkas. So you have been answering some questions that were shared. I want to ask you a question, or can you provide an example of communicative activities that have been practically successful? I want an example that you cannot forget.
The example I showed the one of simple past was where this one this type I use it with all the tenses. It can be used. So you can change. You can use present simple. You can use past simple. You can use present perfect. You can use future perfect. Anything. What's very important is what we have information gap. As a teacher, I know the information. The students, they ask me questions, so they are practicing asking questions. Me, I write just XV, 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 XV. Once the chart is full, I invite my students, please write correct sentences about these people. So they will practice what? They will practice negative and interrogative. Again, then I say, Yalla, ask your partner. When he or she asks his partner, he is or she is what? Practicing again, and they are communicating. Do you know the answer, Ahmed? When two students are asking questions, do you expect their answers?
No.
We don't expect their answers, which means this is communication. When as a teacher, I don't know the answer. This is one of the problems we have in our classrooms is most of the time we ask questions whose answers we know. We're just waiting for the students. We are just waiting for students to tell us the answer. But when you have all these, let's say 40, all the 40 they can speak, they can talk, and you will not be bored as a teacher, and you will learn a lot of things from your students. So information gap activities, and something else I like a lot, Ahmed, games, Ahmed. Games are very important. They involve laughter, fun, and students they learn without being aware that they are learning.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Bakkas. Another question is how as teachers can we assess the effectiveness of these communicative activities in our classrooms?
A checklist.
Checklist.
Yeah, you have a checklist or you have rubrics. So you share the checklist or the rubrics with your students. So when we say, it's like sometimes you ask students to vote which is the best dialogue or which is the best performance. When they say it's Ibrahim or it's Leila or it's Hind and so on, they have what? They have rubrics to rely on, which are more objective. So which means if the teacher says or said that Leila's performance was great, he or she can justify his or her choice. Number one, number two, number three, which means for me, Mohammed, next time, if I want to have my performance like Leila, I must respect those rubrics. So these rubrics, they will help students to self-assess, So assessing themselves, and also they build on them to improve their performance for future performances.
Yeah, thank you. Here we have Mr. Dries Mimoni here asking about examples of games that could be used.
Allah, there are a lot of games.
Yeah.
Yeah, which games? That there are a lot and oceans of games. If you want to start, there are a lot of games.
You shared someone who, find someone who you shared.
Yeah, find someone who. We can talk about classification.
Yeah.
You invite students to classify things. Then they will discuss, should it be here, and so on. So they discuss and so on. We have listen and draw, which means you have like one game. It's what they call back to back. So one student is having, for example, a picture, and he is or she is describing it, and the person on his back, the other person is trying to draw it, and then they compare this with that, and they see. Again, it's information gap. It's an information gap activity. It involves listening, reading, and so on. We have the Simon Says.
Yeah.
You have Simon Says. We have the let's say, for example, a lie or truths about someone. You invite students to write on a piece of paper, small piece of paper. You invite students to write, let's say, true or really information about themselves. Then you have them on a desk. Then students try to read the description and try to find, and they have the right, for example, the right to ask 5 questions. If they find the right person in 5 questions, they are winners. Yeah, of course, we have also spot the difference. Spot difference is great, especially when you have 2 pictures. And then you target what you want to teach. In one of the spot difference, I used, I want my students to practice prepositions of place. So then you have here on, in, under, over, and so on. That was great. Yeah. Yes, نعم سي أحمد.
Yes, Rida Al-Ghandour have been wondering about how can you reduce the TTT in a classroom of low achievers?
So when you know that your students are low achievers, adapt the language to their level, صاحبي. Adapt the level. Okay. Yeah. Again, it reminded me of a great supervisor I had, Habib Al-Assal. I had 2 great supervisors, by the way. I was supervised by Habib Al-Assal, then I was supervised by the great Hasim, Mohammed Hasim. I say hi to both of them. Hi to Habib Al-Assal, and hi to Mohammed Hasim. And of course, I say hi to all the supervisors of English in Morocco, all of them, and a special thanks to the G23 supervisors, my colleagues. The classroom is for the students. So if you go there, and we know that you are great speakers, you know that you are fluent speakers, we know that you got your BA in English. So please lower the filter, if you want to say. Adjust the level of your language to that of your students. So again, if you remember in the activities, you said always take the level of your students into account. So take the level of your students, reduce, let's say, adapt or simplify the language to your students. You would have games, and you would have activities, and they would be successful. We said that the example is what's your name? How old are you? Where do you live? Okay, these are just these 3 questions, and you can have an information gap activity, and it will be a success inside your classroom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bakkas. So now let's see if Dr. Samah, if you have any. Dr. Samah, are you with us? Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Dr. Habed. Actually, we have had a very interesting workshop today, and I would like to thank our esteemed speaker, Professor MOHAMED BAKKAS, for sharing this valuable insight. I would like also to thank you all for your active participation in this session. As we come to the end of this workshop, I would like to take a moment to reflect on what I have learned through this discussion. And we learned a lot of things and terms. We defined what we mean by communicative activities. These are classroom tasks that encourage learners to use language in meaningful ways. As we see in the first picture, students engage in real life conversations, problem solving, and collaboration. We have explored the importance of communicative activities in language learning. Effective communicative activities should include an information gap, a clear purpose, and interaction among students. And how we design these activities effectively, this is an important thing as we learn. Also, we learned that teachers face the challenges in using communicative activities. Technology makes them more interesting, especially using AI, as Dr. Muhammad did. Before we conclude, I encourage you all to take what we have learned today and apply it in your own classrooms or teaching contexts. The best way to develop communication skills is through practice. So let's continue exploring and improving our methods. These practical strategies and ideas that will surely enrich our academic and professional journey. Um, as we conclude this is insightful workshop, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to our esteemed speaker, Professor Mohammed Baqqas, and a special thanks to my colleague, Dr. Hamad bin Isa, for excellent collaboration in managing this workshop smoothly and effectively. We look forward to more scientific workshops that promote knowledge, collaboration, and continuous learning. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a great evening. Wishing you a blessed Ramadan. See you soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Thank you.
وعليكم السلام.
Thank you, Dr. Samah. Mr.
Thank you.
Baqqas, any final word?
Thank you, Sihmad, and thank you for Bitlisaniyat for allowing me to share my humble knowledge and to learn from you and from our esteemed audience. Looking forward for more collaboration, cooperation, inshallah, in future days.
Inshallah, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Samah. So,
Thank you.
to our audience, thank you for your participation and engagements. Thanks to all members of the Academy who participated in making this lecture successful as well. So have a blessed night. Goodbye.
Thank you.